Portland, and then Lakers.
I was going to say, Ed, I was going to go throw it right to you. That OKC Houston series, Ed, is incredible.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. OKC came back and tied that series up. It looked like early on in the initial part of the series, it looked like Houston pretty much had that thing, and the Thunder were dead in the water. But all of a sudden, they turned this thing around, tied up that series, made it 2-2. So now Game 5 is critical for either one of those teams. That turned out to be a really good series, PLR.
It really did. You know what's funny? If you go back, I think we both said with Russ we pick Houston, without Russ we pick OKC. And the first two games, I was like, dang, maybe they're telling me they don't need Russ as much as I thought. And these last two games, it's like, yeah, they need Russell Westbrook. So that one's just that's just a toss-up all the way around.
Yeah, some great basketball happening, and so much to look forward to. Excited to see who's going on to the next round. One of also major things that happened over this weekend, and it was all over social media, and throughout not only basketball but also in baseball, and athletes just sharing Kobe Bryant, late Kobe Bryant. His birthday yesterday would have been 42, and everybody expressing just memories they had. What a great guy he was. Not only a player, but just as a person, what he stood for, and just who Kobe was. We saw Diana Taurasi rock a special jersey in yesterday's game with the Phoenix Mercury. Just the tributes, artists, same thing. Snoop Dogg did a special tribute as well that was out there, and the news is that street in California is going to be renamed, or boulevard is going to be renamed in honor of Kobe Bryant. So, which is just a great honor. One of many since his passing that's taking place, and we see more and more of what the effect Kobe had not only in the league, not only in NBA, but also WNBA. He was just great. Support for the league, for the players there, and just all across sports. What do you reminisce? And we were talking right before we were prepping for the show, PLR, about your interview with Kobe, the last one here in Phoenix when he played the Suns.
I got a couple. One that was just cool. Imagine being one of the legends, and at the time a living legend, being in that scrum where they cleared out where the Suns coach speaks, they actually put a Laker backdrop up and brought Kobe in there, and being in the first row, room full of reporters, and being able to squeeze off two questions to, at the time, a living legend was absolutely incredible. Real quick on Kobe, two things, two of the best moments ever I think Kobe had when Matt Barnes faked the ball in his face and he didn't even flinch. It's like that's one Kobe moment that will always stand out. And then when he was playing without Shaq and he pulled up and hit like a 15-footer against Boston in Game 7 after he had shot miserably, but he caught it and just everyone knew that shot was going in. That didn't ice the game, but it put them in a spot where you knew once he hit the shot, everyone in the building was just like, yeah, we got this. And so those are just two Kobe memories out of the many that will always come to mind. But just what he did for the ladies' game. Diana Taurasi said last night after the game she wanted to honor him not by scoring, but by never giving up, playing through, and doing whatever it takes to win a game in life, just doing that because this was a person that wasn't just a great basketball player, but inspired so many people. And Ed, the one thing I said, everyone compares him to Mike. I think the difference, Mike went from being a boss on the court to being a boss as an owner. Kobe went from being pretty much a boss on the court to a mentor. And so I think his relationship with players are so different from the NBA, WNBA, and younger people, all the way up to Iescu in the WNBA, to Kyrie in the NBA. So their playing was so similar in terms of the killer personality. But Kobe, when he was done, went to mentoring. And I think it's just cool that they had that split, that difference. Yeah, definitely left a mark.
Yes, he did. He was such a special man, just on and off the court, like you said, Paul. Just so many vivid memories. I just remember the first championship. Their first championship was against New Jersey, right? Was that the first title they won?
No, Indiana was the first one.
Indiana.
I thought it was Indiana, wasn't it?
I think it was Indiana and then New Jersey, right?
And then New Jersey twice.
So I just remember like young Kobe when they won that championship against the Nets, and he was just so celebratory, and he was just like so elated and just giddy that they won a championship. They fought hard to win that championship, and that young Kobe as compared to the Kobe that we saw later in his career, and just the way he evolved and all the battles he had with Mike and just all the other greats he went up with, and the titles they won, and all the All-Star appearances and the Olympic appearances and all the gold medals, everything he did over his career. And like you said, Paul, everything he did for the WNBA and everything he did for people both on and off the court. He was just such a great influence. He was human. He had his faults. We all recognize and realize all the faults he did, and it was all very, very real and very televised. It was all out there worldwide, being Kobe Bryant and the trouble he got in. Of course, he had to pay for that. He had to own up to that as a man and go through that situation. But he's human just like the rest of us. He made his mistakes, and God bless him. He's in heaven right now, smiling down on everything that's happening in basketball right now. I'm sure he's in heaven right now, just elated that the way the NBA and WNBA is working their playoff situation out. He's got to be happy with the way basketball is going, and the fact that part of Figueroa Street outside of Staples Center is now going to be called Kobe Bryant Boulevard. What a great honor. What a great tribute to an awesome and incredible young man in Kobe Bryant. R.I.P. Kobe.
Yes, just so many great things that anybody can say about him, and just like you guys said, it mentor, influence, and just coming up in the game. Those that he faced, and one of the things, what Jordan said it like, pretty much like his brother, and he just idolized them, and just I would say he grew from that and the people around him, and he grew to be a better person, better player, just being better. And that's where Kobe, what his mission, you can say, was all around. And not only for him, but for those around him.
He was like Mike. He wasn't the easiest teammate to get along with or play with, but everybody wanted to play with Kobe. And when they knew that they were on the court with Kobe, they had to elevate and step their game up, or else they wouldn't be on the court. They wouldn't have any opportunities. Just like if you wanted to play with LeBron, you got to step your game up, or you're not on the court with him. He's going to get you out of here. So the influence that he had over so many young players over the years, even the post-Shaq years, that's when Kobe really stepped up, and he took control of the Los Angeles Lakers and really made that team, that organization, his own.
It's like being on this show. If we don't step our game up, you fire us. Same logic.
No firing here. You're safe. This is a safe place.
Whenever you hear that, you're safe.
Oh yeah,
Don't
that's
worry about it.
The dreaded vote of confidence, right, Paul?
I cannot deny or confirm.
Neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you're silly.
Isn't that crazy though, Joe? He would have been 42 years old. He was still in the prime of his life.
Yes, it's just heartbreaking, sad.
Oh my goodness,
so much ahead of him.
I didn't even have my baby son until I was 42.
Really?
As crazy as that is. Yeah. I have my baby son at 42. So I can't say baby too loud because he might. Not a baby!
We'll just replay this for him later.
It's all right. He still lives rent free. I can say what I want.
Yeah. One of the other news that came out, or stories, I should say, and I don't know how closely you read or followed this, came out in Time magazine, or was actually a video. Time 100 talks, and Rob Manfred speaks out. And he pretty much says that he blames himself, that he could have done things differently, could have done better as far as handling the situation with baseball, the season, and just the outcome of it all. One of the things that he does say, and I'm bringing it up here.
She's looking for that. Ed, do you think baseball needs a bubble? for the playoffs.
Yes. You see how the NBA and the NHL are doing so well right now as far as their bubble situation. Yes, the MLB needs a bubble. I don't know how the NFL is kicking around an idea of a postseason bubble for them, which is a great idea. And like you said, Paul, on your show on Friday, they should have a host city for the World Series. And whether it's in a domed stadium like Houston or Texas down there with the Rangers or the Houston Astros or wherever it is, LA, wherever it is, they've got to limit the amount of travel these teams have in the playoffs to hopefully avoid a corona outbreak on any one of these playoff teams.
And one of the things that he said, one of the many things he shed light on was, it's not a perfect season. It was never going to be a perfect season. It's just an accommodation to the situation in which we find ourselves. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, don't know how well you went into reading this, but there was a lot of blame. The blame being placed on the players, the blame on MLB, the commissioner. There was so much that happened, a lot of that transpired, and now it's coming out. It's like, okay, maybe we could have done this differently. He even admits that putting the situation of coming about the season and the agreement, that how that could have been handled differently, and not putting it out as it was, otherwise as it went and happened with the media. It's a learning process. It's a educational point right now. And one of the things that he also was asked was, and you brought it up, Paul, is the bubble. There's been backlash and some criticism about not having an MLB bubble. So, he was asked about if there's going to be a bubble for the playoffs. He doesn't completely answer that question. He kind of, in a way avoids it and saying that they're deep in the process. But what does that really say? Does that tell us that yes, it's going to be easier to have a playoff bubble, but being that you're deep in the process doesn't say yes, it's more of a potential yes, or no, it's something that we're not going to do at all. Yes, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to participate in the playoffs, especially this season, due to the dynamics of it all. There's acceptance coming from him, but at the same time, it's like a lot at the same time from me reading this and watching the video, and I don't know if you guys did, there's contradiction as well. What are your thoughts on this?
Paul and Joe, when it comes to the bubble, I think hopefully they learned their lesson from the situation that brought them to where they are now with the 60-game season, the back and forth between MLB and the MLBPA, and them never coming up with a situation until the 12th hour. It wasn't the 11th hour. It was the 12th hour. They went so much back and forth. They even met here in Phoenix. Tony Clark and Rob Manfred met and still couldn't hammer anything out. And it came down to a 12th hour situation. So at least on this part, when it comes to a playoff bubble, they better have this thing nailed down because they're over halfway through this season. If they're going to do this playoff bubble, they need to have this thing nailed down and figure what cities they're going to play in. Are they going to play in Chicago or Milwaukee? Are they going to play in Arlington and Houston? 2 dome stadiums for the Rangers and the Astros, respectively. Are they going to play in New York or LA/Anaheim? They need to figure this thing out before the last second so the playoffs do not turn into an absolute mitigated disaster like the season already is.
Everything that comes out of his mouth, I doubt. I'll just keep this one simple. They know what they have to do. If they don't do it, it's on them. If I was a betting man, I'd bet baseball is going to be on strike next year anyway. So I don't know how much more equity they're going to put in anything, but this whole show has been a dookie show since the beginning. You got every weekend, there's a set of teams not playing because of COVID, and they could have fixed it. Listen to what the commissioner said. Instead of saying, with all the things that have happened and everything that we see, I am going to sit down and no matter what it takes, we're going to get to a situation where when the playoffs start, we can have some type of bubble to keep our players safe and get the playoffs going on. Instead, baseball does what it always does. We should have, we didn't, we could have, we would have, we should have, whatever. There's no one being a definitive leader. And when your commissioner isn't being a definitive leader, it speaks for everything else.
And coming back to what Ed said and what you are also saying, Paul, is with COVID, the breakouts, they're not over. They're still happening. Games are still being suspended. I won't say canceled, but suspended. And we know the challenges that it has been with testing. And I've known of people that have gotten tested and they don't have to wait 1 to 2 days. They get the results within 15 to 20 minutes. Baseball, they have to wait. They're not being tested every day. and they have to wait